Cloud.
Oh, lots of folks from California,
Oh, yeah.
Illinois.
So I'm going to, if you're just joining us, utilize the chat to let us know your name, if you're affiliated with a church or where you're zooming in from, and what you hope to learn or what you hope to get out of this discussion. And I will turn it over to one of my favorite people in the world, Pastor Sarah.
It is such an honor to be here. I've been using social media for a long time, so is my church, but I will tell you I was a reluctant adopter of social media and the web in general. Before the pandemic, I didn't want my sermons online. I felt like it was going to expose the church. It was going to make us vulnerable. I'm a pansexual pastor. We're an LGBTQ plus affirming church. I was like, I don't really know how I feel about it. The church administrator convinced me it would be good and fun to get on TikTok during the pandemic. And now I have almost 200,000 followers there. Between that and Instagram, I'm pushing 225. I also pastor a local brick and mortar church. And so I can talk to you about how to integrate those. And I also helped build a movement with Reverend Derek Terry, a progressive Christian movement. We together, just the hashtag progressive clergy has over 378 million views. So I want to show you a picture really fast. Just to give you an idea of the scale, right? Just to give you an idea of the scale of social media. Oh goodness, what it's asking me to, that's fine. Yes, play the slideshow. Okay, here we go. This is on Instagram where I just got, this is my little professional dashboard. 1.2 million accounts reached in the last 30 days. All right. That's more than are in the United Church of Christ. So to give you a sense of the scale of the reach, the number of people that you can reach with social media, it is just astounding. And I've learned a lot by being on social media. I've become a public square pastor. I was really not. I liked being behind the walls. I liked going out and doing service, but then not being so vulnerable and exposed. My life has changed as a result of participating in some of this. There are a lot of social media platforms. There's Twitter, there's LinkedIn, there's YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I am most familiar with Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. So if you have questions there, I'm much more of an expert on those than I am on LinkedIn, for example. But I suspect there's a lot of wisdom in the room. Pastor Amara is also on TikTok. So if y'all are looking, Pastor Amara, I'm curious, are you part of the Progressive Clergy Squad on Facebook yet? Maybe feel free to jump into the chat if you want. One of the things that happened really early on is that I got on, well, Derek, why don't you lead the questions? I don't need to say anymore.
I'm sorry, I'm muted. So yeah, we actually connected I connected with Pastor Sarah on TikTok. Once I joined TikTok, and I was just like Pastor Sarah, very, 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 very reluctant. Because my church, we have been, targeted before, and I'd been targeted before, and I already had somewhat of a national platform that I was trying to avoid. But people were adamant, get on, get on, get on. And I thought, well, you know what, I'll try it. And luckily, that progressive clergy Facebook group really was very beneficial, very helpful with developing this movement. And so we've seen social media. I pastor a brick and mortar church in Cincinnati, Ohio. Social media has helped us to take in several new members through the pandemic, and since the pandemic, people really like being able to drop in without having to physically drop in. We've had people that, because they follow us on social media all over the world, that contribute financially to the church, some monthly, some, write one of those big end of the year checks. Anytime there's anything going on, we had one where someone broke into the church and ransacked my office, and a group of friends on TikTok created videos sending people to our GoFundMe, and it raised almost $12,000 to help us to get new windows and doors and upgrade our security system. So I just we really wanted to use these ideas and things that have helped to connect with churches and for churches to figure out how can you take the culture and climate of your individual uh, institution and brand and help people to find who you are, help people to find you. And like, it's amazing how you can come to my church on a Sunday morning and maybe see 20, 30, 40 people, but then see I have a couple 100,000 followers on Facebook
Yeah.
and 20,000 on TikTok or 30 on TikTok and all these other. It's just it's amazing, and people find their way to the church when they're in Cincinnati. They make it a point
Mm-hmm.
to come and to meet people that they feel like they know. So I'm just super glad that you all are here. Go ahead, Sarah.
I want to put a caveat out there. If your reason for getting on social media, just like if your reason for gaining members of your church is because you want more butts in the pews, or you want more members, or you want more money, it doesn't work. You may get on social media and have tens of thousands of followers and not have anyone come join your church. Now, they might join a UCC church in Oklahoma or California if you are in Oklahoma, but that's not the primary reason to get on social media. We have had members join my church. We have had money come in as a result of social media, but it's not a lot. What's happened is it's expanded our understanding of the body of Christ. It has helped me grow as a pastor, as a preacher. It's helped our church members grow because they're interfacing with people from around the world. And if you're interested in sharing the good news beyond your community, absolutely. Or if you're just interested in having some fun, that was part of why I got on TikTok in the first place, is that it was March of 2020 and I was stressed out, and getting on TikTok was really fun. I did not start out doing progressive Christian content. I started doing out videos about service dogs because I have a service dog. And that's actually how I gained a massive following originally. I think I'm friends with every major service dog creator and every non-major. If you have a service dog and we're not friends on TikTok, I would be really shocked, because one of the things I did early on was we built that community and built support. And then when I started going live and live streaming, and people would ask me about my job, and they said, wait, you're a pastor, but you're a woman. How does that work? And we started having more conversations, and I realized there was a real hunger for progressive Christian ministry and online. And a bunch of those service dog folks actually followed as my account found a new niche in doing more progressive Christian content. I still do service dog stuff every now and then, but yeah, that's part of what we want to talk about today, right? Is finding your niche.
Sarah and Derek, I'm in driving mode. This is Amara. You had
Hi.
asked before about TikTok. Hi. So I pulled over to speak. I have a much smaller following of almost 5,000 people, and my best video did about 81,000 views.
Wow, that's great.
And I always link it to progressive clergy, and I'm in that group. And I have not found that it has, we're a small church kind of tucked away on a peninsula. We're not in a metropolitan area. So I haven't found that it brings people to our church physically, but I'm so grateful to be on there because people I find are so hungry to learn about progressive Christianity and that there is this other way. I just really, really, really struggle with making creative content and the time that it takes with the duties that I have to my church who pays me. So, yeah, anyways, I'm going to keep driving now and mostly listen, but I wanted to pop on and say hello.
Yeah. Well, if
You
you want tips on the creative content, I think just follow your heart and don't feel so much pressure about producing things. I went on sabbatical for 3 months and posted 0 videos. And the audience was still there when I got back. In fact, it had grown. There were new people. And because there's so many of us, I feel like we are this, well, it's an ecumenical organization, a church, but there are a lot of different pastors. And so if we take breaks, it's okay. The other thing, I don't know, I write scripts. Sometimes I use a teleprompter, or I'll do a series, or most often I'll do a video about the thing I have to preach about anyway. And so it's part of my sermon prep. If you can get your message into a 1-minute video or a 30-second video, then preaching on Sunday morning is going to be a breeze.
Absolutely. Since we'll only be here an hour, let's jump into some questions. And then this is going to be mostly conversational, so please, if you want to ask a question, you can put it in the chat. I'm going to be monitoring that. I'm going to address what people have said so far. If you want to ask it on camera, we know sometimes, there can be some nuance to some of these things. You can use the little raise your hand tool. If you don't know how to do that, you can put in the chat, I want to say something, and I'll definitely call on you for that. I want to start with, if Pastor Sarah can share us an example of one of her videos.
Sure. Let's see. Well, I'll do one that went viral recently, about eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven, since we're with the ONA Coalition.
Yeah, that works with the ONA Coalition.
And I remember, and I know being a eunuch is not the same as being trans, and there's a lot of different pieces in here, but I do find that this is an affirming text, and it was meaningful for a lot of people. So here's an example. Let me know if you don't have sound.
Are there trans people in the Bible? Yeah. Does it say they're going to hell? No. Jesus actually lifts up genderqueer people as model disciples. Really? Yeah. Matthew 19:12. There are eunuchs who are born that way, some who are made eunuchs by others, and some who will become eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. And eunuchs are castrated men? Short answer, yes. But being a eunuch is not the same as being trans. Trans can mean a lot of things, but here's how this passage affirms genderqueer, trans, gender nonconforming, and intersex people. Go on. First, it says some people are born eunuchs. Jesus affirms there can be more than just male or female at birth. Then Jesus says some will become eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. In other words, some people who were assigned male at birth will later choose a different gender identification as part of their work of following God. Couldn't it be symbolic? I thought this was about priests being celibate. Priests didn't have to be celibate until the 1100s. Also, a lot of eunuchs could and did still have sexual relationships. They just couldn't procreate. Weren't they also outcast? Yes, while some eunuchs had high-powered jobs in the royal courts, they also faced a lot of discrimination. So it's notable when a Christian Philip runs into an Ethiopian eunuch along the road, and the eunuch says, "What is there to prevent me from being baptized?" Philip doesn't say, "Well, you can't be a Christian because you don't fit the gender binary." Philip stops the chariot, goes down to the water, and baptizes them. So if people don't fit the binary, whether they're born that way or they even choose that later in life, they're cool with Jesus. They're not just cool with him, they're celebrated as models of discipleship.
Yay. All right, so that's an example. I show you really fast a 20-second thing of what I used to do.
Can you spot the fake service dog? On-duty service dogs should be leashed or under voice or signal control. Service dogs are rarely on retractable leashes, although people in wheelchairs may use them so their dogs can go pick up things far away. If you see a dog pulling hard on a leash or wandering about without correction, it's probably a fake service dog.
So when I started, I did a lot of content that was super short. I still do silly videos too. I don't all do serious educational content. This is my dog.
You'll be blessed. You have the best.
And that's it. So my niche initially, right, was service dog stuff. And TikTok and Instagram will kind of push you into a direction because they want to feed those videos. TikTok, especially because it's a steady stream of videos, they want to give your videos to people they know will enjoy them. So if they've identified that someone is really interested in sort of deconstructing the Bible, if that's most of what you do, then they'll feed your videos to them. Instagram is a little bit different. It prefers to feed famous people stuff to people. Instagram is more about the pretty people and who's famous and beautiful. Once you have a certain so now that I have a certain following there, they give my videos to everybody, even like I don't use hashtags there at all. But on TikTok, you can direct your stuff. But it's totally fine if you don't. In the last month, I've done videos about the history of the banjo, doing an environmental video, a silly dog video. You can mix it up. But if you focus in one general area, let's say you love plants, for example, and gardening and talking to people about the wisdom of gardening, you will probably find more like-minded people who are really excited to follow your content and see more of that.
Do you think that people need a niche, or that it could be beneficial, since we're talking about like finding your niche, but then not being stuck with it?
Yeah, no, I think it's people initially said I should create another account, a separate account to talk about service dogs and one for progressive Christianity. Some people do that. The danger is you become stuck and people know you for one thing. The benefit is they know you for that one thing and you become an expert in that field. And so when people are interested in whatever you're interested in, you're one of the people that they go to. In terms of getting out of your niche, let's see, let's go to some questions. I'll play my little devotional later. But once you have a certain number of followers on TikTok or Instagram, you can go live. Live streams are not curated, which means if you scroll through live streams, it will show you all manner of things, which is great because as a viewer, you can see videos from all over the world, people just sharing their life in the moment, but you can also reach people who otherwise would never interact with you in your daily life.
I feel like that's one of the things that I've struggled with on TikTok is it's forced me, since I started with progressive clergy as an open and affirming pastor, it wanted me to keep making videos about God loves gay people, which is awesome, and I believe. But I'm also, Black, and some of the social justice stuff, and I'm also, there was stuff going on with Roe v. Wade being overturned, and so I found that the way TikTok worked, anytime I talked about something that wasn't Black, gay, Christian, I got 2 views, right? So, so it's like and so that psychology is trying to then tell you, oh, I'm doing something wrong. Let me go do what I'm supposed to do. And it's like, I'm more than just, that's why I didn't want to get them in the first place. I thought it was a dance app. I'm like, I don't want to do silly dances. And so it's like, then I started developing this thing. And when I didn't do that one thing, it didn't like it. And then one time I got on the wrong side. So I went viral because someone posted, this guy thinks God likes gay people. And I got all this hate. And so I've been on sabbatical for months now for TikTok for this very reason. But yeah, what do you think?
Well, first, there are a lot of filters. You can filter your comments. You can turn comments off. I had a video go viral on the service dog thing where people were just furious with what I had said. And, or they were really passionately in favor. And it was too much. So I just turned off the comments. The more people engage with your content, the more these algorithms will send it to other people. But here's the thing. If your mental health is compromised, it's not worth it, right? So taking a break, I think, is a great idea. Increasing your filters. So I filter everything from, did I include that? I didn't. One of my most viral videos, if you want to go viral with a video, tell people they can't do something that like 95% of people can do. So I did a video about how I blocked the word repent in my comments. And then of course, everyone tried to type the word repent and they'd spell it wrong, or they'd try to say it in a different way. And because of all the engagement, it sent it to hundreds of thousands of people. Don't use that trick all the time, but if you need one to go viral, that works. But I think that's the thing. And then as you develop an audience, your audience will also moderate content for you. So they'll shut down people who are being inappropriate. TikTok is openly does not tolerate racism and homophobia and misogyny. according to the community guidelines. That doesn't mean some of it doesn't get through. So you got to report it. And then take care of yourself.
A couple of questions in
Yeah.
the chat. One, someone asked, what editing platform did you use to create the unique post?
I use iMovie. That's what we were using during the pandemic to do our Zoom. And so that's what I had to learn anyway in order to make our worship services happen. So that's what I use. You can edit in Instagram really easily, and you can Instagram Reels, and you can edit in TikTok really easily. A lot of people just do that. And there are all kinds of filters and stuff you can add if you want.
Will the filtering prevent you from getting on the wrong side of TikTok, or just prevent them from commenting? That's a good question.
So there are people who hate follow hashtags. That's more of an Instagram thing. So I don't use hashtags on Instagram at all. It will block certain comments. The other thing is, if you get on the wrong side of TikTok, all you do is you post a video saying, help, I'm on the wrong side of TikTok. If you are a queer and trans affirming person, if you're anti-racist, please comment, because then what happens is those are the people who are engaging with your post, and it yanks you back to a place where you're comfortable.
Is it possible to cut from live stream to create a TikTok video?
Yes. So at least in TikTok, there's something called live replay, and you can download the live stream that you just did, and then you can piece it together. TikTok only lets you record up to 10 minutes. Depending on your phone, it might be 3. Has nothing to do with your follower count. It depends on how old your phone is. So you might have to edit that in another software. But there are so many free, whether you're on PC or Mac, there's probably a free video editing software. I do use a green screen because I wanted to use it for worship. You don't have to. The nice thing about TikTok in particular is you can be a hot mess as long as you are concise in your speaking and you're eliciting conversation. People will be excited. A lot of the most viral content, people aren't wearing makeup or dressing in a certain way, you know. That being said, if you are a clergy person, if you wear a robe and stole, your videos will do better.
Yeah.
If there's better lighting, your videos will do better.
And
Bright colors.
I was going to say, I never wear a robe and stole at my church.
Yeah, I rarely do.
And
Always
so
on TikTok.
but always on TikTok. And that's
Yeah.
it's just quickly helps people to identify. Someone asked, how do you balance, quote, my following with, quote, my congregation's following? And what happens to that following if you leave or change congregations?
Good question. So if you're a clergy person, I do recommend creating your own account, not a church account. Because Instagram and TikTok are personality driven. That's just how it is. They want to follow you. Now, one thing I do is I go live. I try to do this every Friday. I haven't the last couple. I started a series called Spilling Tea with Boomers, where I, the personality they're familiar with, interview a member of my church live. And the audience can ask them questions, and I ask them questions. And so the audience gets to know members of my church, but it really is my ministry. It's my public ministry. And I talk about what's going on at the church, but it's not the churches, because pastors aren't with churches forever. The other thing is it allows people the opportunity to hear, these are my opinions and my interpretation, and there are people in my church who disagree.
Right.
Also gives me freedom. I do a lot of collaborations with this guy, Sean, who's a Pentecostal Bible teacher and preacher. He is not in line theologically in a lot of cases. I'll show you an example just really
Did
fast.
you know God only told Adam not to eat the forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden?
You missed that?
Yeah,
Yes,
Eve's
Sean.
not even created yet when God says if you eat from the tree of knowledge, you'll die. I'm not saying Eve didn't disobey the rules, just that maybe if Adam was the one explaining the rules, something got lost in translation.
I always assumed it was because Adam was not a proper communicator.
All right, so that's Sean. Sean lives in Nashville. If you ever want to do a walk with Sean, he does a bunch of anti-racist walks in neighborhoods. He's amazing. And we do stuff together. And I've actually been able, because we've done TikToks together, sometimes I'm able to play those at church and bring in another voice. Right, so we don't have any people of color in our pastoral staff.
Right.
But Sean will come preach and we play it on the screen, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
we're able to
yeah.
have this dialogue that really opens things up for us.
All right. Like I said, any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and I have some that I will make sure
If you have questions, what's that sound? It's my dog.
we
Throwing a bone. Sorry.
they always steal the show.
Every time.
I don't know if there's, can I ask a question just while I'm
Absolutely.
Okay. How do you all integrate your TikTok accounts with the church that you serve? Does it feel kind of like a separate thing, or have you found a way to kind of double use the content? And do you ever have issues with people in your church setting, you know, having issues with either the publicity or the negative? You know, I've been nervous sometimes that we would get Zoom bombed, or, you know, those kinds of repercussions that might occur because you are bringing publicity to the church.
Yeah, so the only threats we got were from a mega church pastor who was also on TikTok, who ultimately we decided was trying to clout chase because his account was real small. And what he ended up doing was actually doing publicity for our church. Because by posting about what a disaster I and our church was, he told all these people in Albuquerque about us, which is fantastic. But it is a concern, right? You will raise the profile of your church and of yourself. Now, in terms of the congregation understanding what TikTok is, I would say out of my congregation of like 100, 150 active people, maybe 6 are on. Well, maybe 10 now, because more have joined from TikTok. It's not something they participate on. I post my videos to Facebook, but my videos, as you can tell, I talk really fast. They're not the target audience.
Yeah.
They understand it as public ministry. The way we go march in Pride, right? We march in the Pride Parade. Pastor Sarah does ministry. It's part of my outreach, part of in my letter of call. There's a certain amount of engagement with a wider church that's expected, with a conference, with a wider church.
Yeah.
I'm trying to onboard them to get them to participate in that, and having them come to live streams is one way we do that. And then also using TikTok in church, especially my conversations with Sean, has been a really good way to introduce them. I will say, when I use TikTok videos in church, I slow them down a lot. It's a different audience, and the things you talk on TikTok, the things I talk on TikTok about are very different than the things I talk about in my church. When Derek and I first got on TikTok, people were shocked that, you know, being gay and Christian was possible. That's not a conversation a lot of people are having anymore, because we have 378 million views on videos like that. We have literally changed the conversation among Christians and non-Christians in the United States as a result of our TikTok ministry. Now, for people not on TikTok who are just on Instagram, we just showed up there, and it's a different world. That's the other fun thing, is that you can educate your audience, and just like the congregation, they come along with you, they learn. And so I don't have to talk about homosexuality being a sin or not. I rarely do anymore, because people have already, you know, there are plenty of people in the comments section who can educate people.
So someone asked, So you've never dealt with in-person or email harassment?
Email, yes, but they usually come to the church email and the administrator just deletes them. The only time we alerted the police about something was the threats from the fundamentalist church.
We've had some in my church. Like I said earlier, like someone did break in and someone did come to church once. And I know that there have been some incidents. I don't necessarily think this is a social media thing. I know there are incidents,
Yeah.
we get incidents for ONA churches all across the country. And unfortunately, that's the social political climate that we find ourselves in. But I will say, with our ONA ministry, even people who don't come to our church because of the profile, when they find out that something has happened, like people in the neighborhood, when we say, hey, this happened at our church to the neighborhood, they rally, they come, they support, they give, we get new pride flags all the time because people used to steal the old ones. It's and it also creates content. It's like, oh man, this sucks, but God is still good, right? So
Yes. And that's the thing. For every hateful comment, there are 2,000 comments saying, thank you. I didn't know you existed. I feel more supported. I don't feel alone. There are people who've reached out to me, and I'm sure, Derek, you can answer this too, but who've said, like, that videos that we've made have literally saved their life.
absolutely.
And so you look at the risk reward. Well, what's the risk of somebody coming and saying something hateful? And like, we already have security at the church. Like, we're already mindful of that, that there are people who might want to hurt us, but I don't know that it's increased really. But you weigh that against the extraordinary, like, love and support and life-changing moments. And it's like, oh, why are we so scared?
Someone asked, and there've been several comments that kind of alluded to this.
Yeah.
How much time do you spend per week creating videos? Or there are lots of people who are like, the time commitment.
Yeah, I write scripts. The thing that takes me the longest is writing. But if you're writing a sermon already, or you have an idea and you're inspired, sometimes I'll write myself a note as I'm going to bed, because that's when the creative spark happens. But a lot of you are already public speakers. You're already people who lead a Bible study or talk to people. It's not, you already have those skills. The trick is getting it into a format that reads well on TikTok and Instagram. And that tends to be really short and really concise, which will help your speaking and preaching.
And it's one of those things, I think sometimes when I first got on TikTok, I would have this idea and I'm like, oh, I have this amazing idea and it's going to get 3 million views and it's going to take all day to edit it like perfectly, and it does nothing. And I'll make a video where I'm just like, rattling off, something I'm preaching about, and just for the sake of creating content, and it gets 20,000 views in a day. It's just, so it's like, I think like Pastor Sarah said earlier, like, we always have to remember why we're doing this. And if it's to, get out God's message of love, we feel like there's something to say, we feel like people need to hear it. Like, don't do it for the numbers, because it's never
all
rewarding.
Vanity metrics. Honestly, I totally resonate with what you're saying too. I do have videos that I've put more time into, because it's like my video on banjos, because I needed to find pictures that were royalty free and whatever. You can save yourself time if you have a place where you set things up and it's always the same every time. So like, I Velcroed the green screen to the top of some cabinets and I can just roll it down. The light is set up the same way every single time. The sound is the same way every time. You'll notice the backgrounds in my videos are always the same, no matter what the season, which people give me a hard time about. But forget, like, oh, I used the winter photo. Like, I have 2 photos of the sanctuary, one from winter and one from summer. But you just, if you find, like, just eliminate variables. And then also just get over yourself. My early videos were so cringy and terrible, but they reached some people. And if you think about it, like, how many of our churches have even 100 people on Sunday morning? Your video reaches 100 people. Your video reaches 5 people. That's 5 more than, you reached yesterday. Comment moderation takes time and care. So Amari, you're absolutely right. And that's why blocking words and comments, I've blocked silly, like the word Timothy out. If you're a woman, block the word Timothy. I block the word actually. And I just keep adding them because I don't have time to moderate the comments. Now, when you are building a platform, I do recommend you interact with the comments as much as you can. Because that's how you build an audience. And people see you as a celebrity because you're on their little television.
Right.
And you interacting with them feels like, and I will tell you, because there's celebrities on there too, right? When Kevin Bacon responds to my comments, I'm like, oh my gosh, Kevin Bacon, like,
Right. Right.
Not that I'm a massive Kevin Bacon fan, but he's just the most recent example. So people will get excited when you interact with them. I will say, don't interact in DMs at all. You can't tell how old people are. It's not safe. Just interact with people in the public comments if you can, unless they're friends and colleagues that you can verify they are who they say they are.
Someone asked, I sometimes worry about whether I'm increasing risk for people who are more vulnerable than me. I've got POC and trans people at church, and here's me, they're cis white pastor. So I wonder if I have to be more careful of for other people.
So if you're worried about that, you could just say, I'm Pastor Vanessa, and you don't have to say where you're from. Don't include your last name anywhere. Don't say where you work. Don't make mention of the church where you serve. The link to my church is all listed, and I tell people, like, there's 225,000 people who follow my account, and so far 0 have come to harass people at my church.
Right.
Absolutely.
I'm also in Albuquerque, which is hard to get to. So if I were in New York City, I might be a little bit more cautious.
Right.
But I do think, especially if you put yourself out there, film in your living room or in your office. That is a line I have drawn, is to protect my family. So I never talk about if I have children, if I'm married, none of that. Very rarely in live streams, when I know everybody, I'll mention I've got a hot date with my partner. But other than that, because I'll stream on Fridays and I gotta go because it's date night. But I leave them out of it completely. Okay, tips for growing social media?
Absolutely.
Engagement with your audience is the biggest one. Also, find who your audience is, right? Who's hungry for the content that you're putting out there? Learn about them, what they're interested in. A lot of times I do videos because people have asked a question in the comments. But interacting with your audience makes a big difference. If you're on Instagram, by the way, make sure you follow local businesses. Make sure you're following other churches in the area. Instagram is more of a local networking opportunity. But on TikTok, that's the other thing. Hype up everybody else that's doing stuff that you're doing. The more I promote Derek Terry, the better my account does. It's counterintuitive because I know as churches, we've been taught these are our people and we don't want them to go to a competitor, right? Like, they're ours. But on TikTok, the more progressive content you do, the more of an audience there is for progressive content. So people watch Derek Terry stuff and Rev Timmis stuff and Amara stuff, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is great. They're going to then come watch my videos because they've fallen in love with these other people who are giving these messages that are, filling them and feeding them. So that's, promote everybody, get to know people, follow people who are in your niche, whatever that might be.
Like cross promotion, like
Yeah.
you said, promoting, but then also like duetting people's videos
Yes.
and reposting people's videos. I have friends who, it's like 4 of us, and whenever we have our notifications on for each other, and the rule is whenever somebody posts something, we get the notification, go like it, share it, like so we're helping each other out basically.
Yeah, like it, share it, comment, and then watch the video all the way through. I do have a speaking of promote, this is self-promotion though. But if you want a whole video series on how to TikTok for clergy and progress and Instagram, there's a little URL. I have a whole series on YouTube. I think it's unlisted, so y'all will be some of the first ones to watch it.
This is awesome.
Yeah, but it's got tips on stuff like green screen, growing your audience, figuring out why you're doing what you're up to.
I had a bright idea while you were talking that I wanted to share. This that when we talk about like knowing your audience and learning your audience and figuring out your audience, as a pastor, I think one of the things that has helped us with the brick and mortar church was understanding who needs and who wanted us on social media and figuring out where are those people in our town, in our neighborhood. How do we find those people? And that was really, really, really beneficial. And it's kind of like working backwards from that objective. It's like, oh, all these people keep finding us. Well, there are people like that live here. How do we find them? And how do we go to where they are?
Yes. It's almost like this is how we should be doing evangelism. And I know that's a big, scary word for progressive Christians, especially those of us who are queer and trans and who've been hurt by the church. But there are other people who long for God who've been hurt by the church. There are other people who really want an affirming community. And some of them may be going on the website and checking it out, or they may just wander by and see our rainbow flag. But probably not. When same-sex marriage became legal in New Mexico, and I went and I did like 150 weddings at the courthouse that first week, 0 people had ever heard of my church before. And they wanted a pastor doing their wedding. These are same-sex couples who wanted a Christian service, and they were shocked that there was an affirming Christian church in town. We are notoriously bad at publicity because we don't want to hurt people's feelings and we don't want to impose.
Absolutely. Someone asked, is the how-to link geared more for clergy accounts as opposed to church accounts?
I think it's geared toward individuals who are posting, but it's definitely geared towards everyone. There's 1 or 2 videos for clergy specifically about things like what to wear, but that could be applied to anyone. So if you're a nurse, put on whatever you wear when you're at work as a nurse, right? If you're a psychiatrist, dress the way you think people perceive a psychiatrist to dress. Because if people can recognize you as soon as a video comes on, it's a shortcut, and they'll be like, oh, this is a psychiatrist. I will listen to what they have to say about this topic.
You and I both agree on the term influencer, but that's the term that is thrown around for people like yourself. So how has life changed, or what does life look like? I mean, besides getting to know me and having an awesome friendship, but yeah, what has life been like since no TikTok to the influence that you now have?
Everything, right? So in addition to it opening doors, because once you're on a social media platform, that's what it is. It's social. So you get to know people across the United Church of Christ, across denominations. So I now have many more friends in other churches, but also pagan folks. So we've developed a lot of connections between pagan communities and progressive communities. I just got to go to the Dove Awards with a drag queen. So the Dove Awards are the Gospel Music Awards in Nashville. And I went with Flamey Grant, who is a drag queen who was at the top of the Christian music charts this year. And I never would have gotten to know Flamey Grant and gotten invited to be sort of a bodyguard at the award show had it not been for TikTok. It just expands who you get to interact with. I've learned a lot. And it's enriched my church. So my church has had experiences with people from across the world around, because we have this digital technology now, we can have a conversation in church, or at least a recorded conversation with somebody that I met with on TikTok who lives in the Philippines. And we can play that in church. That's wild, right? Like, we mostly live pretty segregated lives. Most of us do. This opens things dramatically. That might be a good segue to play my little video. How do you feel about that, Derek?
Yeah, play it, and then I have another question.
Okay, it's not long.
Yeah, it's all good.
All right, this is a video I did for Doctor Ministry Project, but it's a nice little devotional, and you get to see some of what you might see on live stream on TikTok.
One of the things I love about TikTok is that creators can go live, which means they could just turn on their camera wherever they are, and we can be witnesses to their lives. And with the help of translation tools, we can talk to people around the world. There are even people who broadcast their worship services, so you can drop in on a service at a Pentecostal church in Ghana or a sermon in Mexico. You can also listen to people like the man you'll hear in a moment who are just talking about their life. The man you'll hear from lives on the Wind River Reservation in Wyoming. And he doesn't just talk about his life, but also the legacy of colonialism and the impact of things like Indian boarding schools on his family. So in the reflection to follow, you'll hear from him, and you'll also be treated to clips of live streams that I recorded throughout the week, all at around the same time as right now. Even the musician who was playing was live. So now let's be in a spirit of prayer as we witness God's beloved children around the world as they share their lives, their joy, their worship, and their truth.
It's a beautiful thing, man. Technology's cool. We can connect with each other and learn from each other. Let's expose the ignorance. Let's expose the divide and conquer tactics that are still very pertinent in today's world of 2023. On your first time coming in, if you can appreciate some history, some culture, some tradition, some truth. Let's get 1,000 people up in here. Let's correct some mindsets. Let's decolonize.
Hey. I love you, Lord, because your mercy never fails me. In all my days, I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, then I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so good, yeah. With every breath that I am able, then I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after, keeps running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, keeps running after me.
And peace and love to you. I wish you well. I wish you good fortune. I wish you truth. I wish you honesty. I wish you healing for all the things that have happened to you in your lives. I wish that you carry yourself in a good and respectful manner with a good heart and look at other people in the world as relatives rather than labels and numbers that are a part of a system that never really cared about the people. How do I still have love in my heart? Because that's who we are, man. We're taught from birth that we're not better than anybody, and forgive, and live a life of somewhat mental solitude, free from any influence of the outside world. So at a very young age, we're taught how to live with ourselves first, and then we can be good relatives to everybody else.
And all my life you have been so.
I'll stop there. We just went around the world, and those
Literally.
are all folks who are live streaming that you can interact with, you can ask questions of. It's extraordinary. And the same could be true for you, right? There are people who are hungry for what you have and what you know. And they might not be in your backyard.
Question. I think this is a perfect transition. What happens when you put your foot in your mouth, or you step in the poo, or you mess up? And I think we've all messed up, and your audience will correct you. But what do you do when that happens?
I can give you an example. Early on, I did a video I thought was so clever about a protester protesting people wearing mixed fabrics. Like, the road to hell is paved with jeggings, and sort of poking fun at Deuteronomy and Numbers in Leviticus. And a couple of Jewish creators said, you really walked up to the line of anti-Semitism, because that law matters a heck of a lot to me. And you just suggested we should throw it all out because it's stupid. And you're making fun of my faith. And I was like, I was trying to say this thing about how we should, not put all this emphasis on the Levitical text about homosexuality. And I just ran over somebody's faith. And so, first of all, I did an apology. Second of all, took down that original video. And then I did a whole series on anti-Semitic things that I learned in church. As it turns out, there's a lot of it. So I had to do some self-reflection, and it hurt. It really hurts when you hurt people that you didn't intend to. But you know what? When I do that and I'm preaching, people tend not to say anything. They tend to just be nice, because we're in a relationship, and for a long time I've been pastored here for over a decade, and they're just not going to say anything, probably. You get so much constructive feedback on TikTok and Instagram.
Absolutely. And I think it's also really, 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 really helpful to understand that sometimes, especially on TikTok, the Gen Z, like the generation, I'm an old millennial. Gen Z, yes. Very opinionated. They own TikTok, and you will say and do stuff that they disagree with, or they'll call you, like if I did a video about the different LGBT flags for Pride Month, and I used a lesbian flag that is outdated. There's now an orange stripe in it, and the flag that I bought, it didn't have the orange stripe, and somebody told me I was anti-trans because I had this flag. And you don't want to end up arguing back and forth with a 12-year-old. So you
do not argue with trolls ever, 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 ever.
Exactly.
Don't just block and delete people. But if it's somebody who's offended, you can say, I'm so sorry, I didn't know.
Exactly.
Now I know. Thank you for telling me. That goes such a long way. And if people are still jerks, then you block and delete. That's the best advice I was ever given. Because a troll is somebody who's trying to create an emotional reaction on purpose to rile you up, and they love the attention.
And it's been really helpful getting to know Pastor Sarah, because I watch her videos all the time, and there are trolls and there are people who are doing icky things, and she's just so chill. and so cool. And I'm like, how do you, like, I get mad and I'm like, how do you do this? And then to find out that she's just a regular human who blocks and deletes and engages, but does it with compassion and gracefully. It's just been an honor to watch you do that, because and I've learned so much, and I learned not to feel guilty about my sabbatical, that I don't have the patience of Pastor Sarah. So sometimes
It's
we
totally
break.
fine. And I've taken breaks too. And there are video, so it does hurt sometimes when people say things. There are things that will get to me, especially people from my own community. Yeah, there was a UCC pastor I had to delete and block because they're from a UCC church that's not open and affirming, and they're very conservative, and they were pushing my buttons, and I was like, I can't take this from you specifically. But that's okay, right? Like it's okay to have boundaries.
I want to throw this out there, and I don't even know if this is true, but I hope it is. Pastor Sarah is an awesome pastor in New Mexico who's working on her D-Min, and I know she's she's looking at technology and how it can relate to ministry and all that good stuff. And I am sure that she is, as a student, available for consulting with organizations that may be willing or looking to do that. And
Yeah.
so what we'll do is, if you registered for this webinar, you will receive a YouTube link tomorrow with the full video. We'll put some other, like the tiny URL that Pastor Sarah put with all of her YouTube videos that can help you, tools and tricks, and then with her email address and all that good stuff. We'll also include the webinar that she did for us 2 weeks ago on AI, because AI can help. I know we all have varying opinions of it, but it really can help with some of that writing of the script. And she talks about that a little bit in that, and help kind of frame, because sometimes I feel like I struggle with videos because I'm like, wow, this is what I want to say. How do I say it? And AI can help take the how do I say it and make it more succinct.
Yeah, if
So
you're struggling to figure out a topic for a TikTok, you could say, hey, Chat GPT, this is something I'm passionate about. What would be a good short form video that I could do about this? And TikTok's been around longer than Chat GPT. Anyway, Chat GPT is familiar with TikTok. It'll help you write captions if you want. I think y'all are probably a lot more creative than Chat GPT. I think you're probably much better writers. But my best advice to y'all is just try it. Just try it out. Just like anything you try for the first time, you might not be great at it right away. But what does that even mean? You're always growing, always learning.
absolutely. And you don't need a green screen. You don't
No.
need photo editing. You can literally, I can see you all on camera right now. You can literally just record your words and put music under it, and boom, you have a
Or
moment.
don't even put music under it.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you put music under it, make sure it's real low volume, because people tend to. But yeah, like Susan, where you are right now, that looks like a great background
Absolutely.
for filming. Like that's phenomenal.
Absolutely. So thank you all so much. And
Thank you.
this is not going to be the last time that you see Pastor Sarah. Again, my name is Reverend Derek Terry, Program Director for the Open and Affirming Coalition. If you are a Open and Affirming church, you need some help with your ONA program, or you want to zhuzh up your covenant, or you're not ONA and you're thinking about, please reach out to me. I'm the one who sent all the emails, and we can chat. Thank you all again, and hope that you enjoyed yourself. Oh, you'll also get a survey tomorrow. It'll just be a couple of questions. You can fill that out so that we can improve all of this. Take care and God bless.
Oh, wait, before everyone goes, Derek, where can we follow you on TikTok?
Oh, I am at Rev Derek Terry on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok.
There we go. Did I get that right in the chat? And I'm at Disorganized.religion.
You did.
Fantastic. And my DMs are open on Instagram and TikTok. So if you do get on and you have questions, feel free to send me a message and I'll do my best to get back to you.
The slide in the DMs. James, are you
Slide
just
into the DMs and be patient with me because there's a lot going on.
Awesome.
But yeah, in answer the time question, it's however much you're willing to put into it. A video probably takes me about an hour now from start to finish. But you know, sometimes it's even less because you're just recording a quick thought, you know, in your car. So many TikTok videos, people are filming in their car. They've got their seatbelt on, they're at a stoplight and they push record. Not that I recommend you record in your car, but that's it can take that amount of time. So
Okay.
yeah. I can't wait to see y'all on social media.
Absolutely. Yeah, let us know
Thank
if you
you.
start something. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. We'll see you too. Oh, and go follow Pastor Amara too.
I need to find her.
Yeah, I just made sure that you're friends. So let me get you
At
her.
Pastor Amara.
Pastor
okay.
_ Amara. Oops.
Nope. Just at Pastor Amara, I think.
Is there another? Is Squamish UCC?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you can search for Pastor Amara, or it's technically it's Pastor _ Amara. And make sure you follow her.
I'm glad.
Or
We're-
any? Oh, Leslie Taylor is here. Oh my gosh.
We're
Leslie,
friends. Okay, I thought I knew the
Leslie
name.
Taylor is also my my Duolingo buddy. That's a social media. We just did a quest together.
Ooh.
If it's the same Leslie Taylor.
It is, yes, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot
Did
of
you make
fun.
that quilt?
No, that's actually, I'm sorry that my camera decided
No,
it
you
was
cool.
not going to work today, but no, that's the mosaic at in the baptistry at my church.
Oh wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
gorgeous. See,
Yeah,
you could do a video about that, you know? It's
absolutely.
like I would love to hear about that.
I am so I do Facebook because I'm old. I do
Yeah.
Facebook. I do Instagram. I watch you on TikTok all the time, and I am just always amazed and impressed. But I don't feel like I've got the creativity to do what you do. And I know I don't need to be you. I don't mean it that way, but
Yeah, no,
but just how do you yeah, I listened today to try to get some ideas about how to you know, how do you generate an idea? I've got a friend, Art Cribbs, who does kind of what does he call it, your message in a minute or something like that. And they're
Ooh.
really good too, and it really is just about a minute, and it's just his thought for the day in about a minute. And so I'm listening to you all, but it's I don't know.
Well, so like I have a friend, Reverend Bethany, who's very popular on TikTok too. A lot of her stuff is just an quick, encouraging message.
Yep.
Okay.
You know, just saying, and I have there's another pastor who she's really into Dolly Parton, and she calls everybody beloved babes of God. And she'll just say, hello, beloved babes of God. And she's got her cute little Dolly Parton stuff going on. And just say, just remember that you're loved and God loves you no matter what. And that's it.
Got it.
But it's really, what do you want to share with the world?
So,
you know? like
yeah.
I was sharing service dog stuff and I ran out. I was like, I shared everything I know.
Yeah. So here's part of where my frustration is, and maybe this is how to start talking about it, I guess. I don't know. But, you know, since the worst part of the pandemic is hopefully over, Um, what we have discovered is that there's so few, like, there's still people online, still
Mhm.
people on Zoom and on Facebook Live, people who watch our YouTube channel, but there's probably about, on a good Sunday, there's maybe 45 people in the sanctuary. On a not so great Sunday, there may be 15. And uh, and so I think that we are losing this sense of what it means to be connected in person, right? We're so used to seeing each other in the little boxes. We're afraid of each other. And so how do we reclaim that, being responsible, being aware that yes, there is still this deadly disease out there, that if you're, if you get vaccinated, you're probably going to be okay. But not denying that that's still a fear out there. But I think we're
Just the habit
losing.
changed. We were in the pandemic long
Yeah,
enough that people stopped coming to church. They
Yeah.
stopped
right,
leaving their house. Every
right.
single group I'm a part of is struggling for participation. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter how cool I mean, these are groups that I love going to. I
yeah,
haven't been to my PEO chapter since the pandemic. I love those women, right? It's
yeah,
a women's group. I don't go. Why? Because I got out of the habit. So
yeah,
that's something churches are struggling with across the country.
yeah,
But and I'm not like there are ways to use social media. I'm glad you're on Facebook. I think Facebook is actually a way our local church community has really bonded because you
hmm,
do see what's going on in people's lives. I've seen pastors do things where they ask a question of the day and then
oh,
invite church people.
idea.
So in your newsletter, you can say, go check out the church Facebook page for the question of the day. And then you can see everybody's answers, which I love.
Yeah. Oh,
Or,
that's a good
or
idea. I
like
like that idea.
post one of my church members who came to us from TikTok. Um,
Hmm.
she's on our board now. She posts every week, what's something you're grateful for this week? And people
Yeah,
post all the things, and it's beautiful and it's uplifting, and it also brings us together. And then you think, oh, I want to go see Lainey, because
yeah,
she's thankful for her grandkid that was born. I want to go talk to her about that.
yeah,
I think Facebook's really good for that, honestly.
yeah.
And Instagram can be too if your members are on. The majority, I mean, I would find out
I
what.
don't think most of our members are on Instagram,
Okay,
but
then use Facebook. I
yeah,
low
yeah,
key hate Meta like with a
yeah,
passion. They are trying to
yeah,
shut down my
yeah.
favorite platform, and they have sold my data to China and all kinds of things. But
Oh
um,
my God.
oh yeah, they were talking about TikTok selling data. Anyway, they're the ones who sold it to companies on the watch list or whatever. But it works for bringing people together. You can also
Yeah.
do group chats. So you can start a little
Hmm.
small group.
Yeah,
You
we've
can
done
video
that.
call people.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And the other thing that I realize, and I just have to figure out what this means for me, um, is that I realize church has changed dramatically. We all had to pivot to learn how to do hybrid worship, you know. Um, but a lot of those people are never coming back into the pews again,
Oh, 100%. You're absolutely right.
and so the church I was trained to pastor no
Mm,
longer exists. And I can learn new things, I can do new things, but I often wonder if I have the energy to continue to serve, right? I'll
mm,
be 65 next year, but I have the energy to continue to serve. But do I have the imagination that it's going to
mm,
take
Mhm.
to get us over this current where we are in
yeah.
order for the church to reach the people that we want to reach?
Yeah.
And
while still caring for the people
that are in the
church.
pews. Exactly.
That's what's
Exactly.
tricky. Honestly, yeah. I mean, you can drive to them, but that's a lot of road trips,
Right.
to go see your
Right.
members
Right.
and check. We did go deliver these little cactus during the pandemic and like would deliver
Mhm.
bread and things like that. And that
Mhm.
seemed to help people want to come back to church. You can write them letters,
Yeah.
but some of them aren't going to come back.
Mm-mm.
Oh, no.
Nope.
And so, yeah, so where are we headed? And is there somebody maybe in your church who is open to starting a Discord channel, for example, or a Facebook group chat, or managing that and really pushing it?
Yeah. And we do have a couple. So one person has already started like a group chat with the youth group and the parents.
Awesome.
So that's already, they're already doing that. There's another woman who kind of manages, and I get the two confused because they need to actually have different names, but there's one that's our church page,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the other one with the same name that's our private church
Probably a group.
group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I get them mixed up all
Yeah,
the
if you
time
change the name, that's probably
because
useful.
they have the same name and they have the same logo, so I get them mixed up.
That
Is
seems that's a technical
anyway.
fix. You can fix that. But yeah, listen,
Yes.
I thank you for naming that, because I feel like when the pandemic hit and we had to do church differently, even I feel like I'm pretty tech savvy and it was exhausting. And I was like, I
Yeah.
can't do this forever. I don't know if I'm the right one to pull it off.
Yeah.
And we did some really creative things, but it's still not the way we were trained to pastor.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
That being said, right, like we were, well, because we were trained for an institution,
Yes.
not
And it's
for
very,
not
yeah,
for a movement.
that,
And that I
yeah,
think is actually honestly what social media has
that's,
taught me more than
yeah.
anything, is that the
Uh-huh.
institution will be left behind.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
We could talk sometime about the UCC and social media another day,
Yes.
perhaps. Are there
Yeah.
any UCC
Yeah.
staff here anymore?
that's
Eric is.
literally why we're having these conversations. It's why we were talking about AI. It's why we're talking about social media. We're
Yeah.
trying to get churches to understand that we can, and I keep telling my congregation this because there are people who are pissed that people aren't back in church. And I'm like, people are not
Yeah.
coming back, not in the way
Right.
that they
Right.
were. And so we can like be sad about it, we can be mad about it, or we can see what's going on, what's happening, and figure out how do we
Yeah, where
minister.
are they going to church?
They're not going to church.
But
And
where?
see, that's
Yeah,
the
but they're listening
right.
to a podcast, right?
Exactly.
They're
Right.
on TikTok. They're
On
watching my videos.
YouTube.
They're watching your videos.
Exactly.
They're
Right.
doing church differently. It's not that they're not
Right.
coming. They're not coming to the building. And
Exactly.
so
They're not coming to the
are
building.
people, but I don't have any trouble getting people to go with me to the Pride Parade. I have
Right.
trouble to get them to come sit and worship. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
decentering worship, I think, is probably a direction we're headed. Also ecumenical stuff. So I'm
Yep.
working
Yeah.
with the campus minister, and there are 10 of us who are different denominations all getting together to do young adult ministry in the city.
Uh-huh.
And yet, drove me crazy. The very first meeting, and these people aren't in the group anymore. But we said, why do you want to do young adult ministry? And the answer was not because young adults hunger for spirituality or because they need
Right.
community,
Which they do.
which they do. What I heard was, we really want more young adults at our church.
And that
I wanted to throw things.
it's
No,
not gonna work.
no, that's not the point. The point
Yeah.
is to share the love of God. If
Yeah.
if your mission is to maintain the institution, it will die.
Right.
And so,
Right.
sometimes we need death before resurrection.
But I was just going to say, and maybe it has to. And we're also talking about, what do we do with our 101-year-old building that
Mhm.
Right.
that requires way more energy and resources than the current butts in the seat will support. I also meant to say
Will
this for
support,
people
yeah.
who were in the chat, but for people to realize that even though Pastor Sarah has 200,000 followers on TikTok, that does not equate to $200,000 a year salary from TikTok. Like,
Oh, there is something
Oh,
called
that
a
would be
creator
lovely,
fund.
but yeah.
I'm part of the creator fund. I do get a couple cents tossed at me every month.
exactly.
Like the most I think I've made $100 in a month, maybe. Now
Wow.
that being said, sponsorships do pay a whole lot, and I was able to get a sponsorship from an environmental group that paid me $5,000 for 2 videos. That happened once.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
Now, will that ever happen again? I don't know. Oh, I also got I got offered a sponsorship by a sex toy company, which was a fun conversation to have with the church council. But anyway,
I bet.
if they hadn't had a porn website, I think we would have gone for it, because anytime I
Our
make
whole
money from
lives.
TikTok, I donate at least 10% to the church,
Right.
because they're letting me use the space, and I won't do things that aren't in line with their values, but they were talking about, being open and talking about sex and sexuality is healthy. And I felt like
Yep.
that was a message I could get behind. But I have a lot of viewers that are under 18, and so it was not an appropriate match.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a way to make money. That and series and Patreon, it's a big hustle. You could do it. I'm not up for it. But
Yeah.
what that means is my local church is footing the bill for lots of free publicity for the United Church of Christ. And
Yeah.
and it's a good message,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
free publicity for Jesus, really. I incidentally promote the UCC and get a bunch of
I
great
really would like to see churches contract with you to help, like, to I mean, my church before the pandemic, we had a marketing company we were working with in the city that it would make so much more sense to say, hey, Pastor Sarah, help us, walk us through this and pay you, as opposed to, the big corporation that does the local pizza chain. Not that they're not awesome, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
Mhm.
it does require us to be
Leslie,
creative.
that is something you're trained in, is spiritual direction
Yeah.
and discernment.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's something you can do with your congregation and discerning where you headed next as a church.
Yeah. And
Okay, so they're not coming
yeah.
back. Where are we going? What's important to us? What's our my church decided we're creating brave and safe spaces where people can experience the divine and participate in the healing of the world. Well, that can be an online space, or that can be an in-person space.
Yeah. Yeah. And we did that at the end of September, sort of did a visioning time
Awesome.
together to figure out where we want to focus in 2024. And then all of October has been our stewardship month. And so again, focusing on where and how have we changed lives in the community, not just personally, but also in the community. And so to tie that visioning time along with the ways in which we're changing lives will then lead us to what we're going to do in 2024. And we're using for Advent, we're using Sanctified Arts.
They're great.
Aren't they wonderful?
Love them.
And so this year the theme comes from O Holy Night, and it's how does a weary world rejoice? And so right. So again, so it's
thank
sort
you
of
for
just
the reminder to go get a Sanctified Art for this season.
Yeah. It's really good.
The
so
liturgy
good.
is amazing.
Yeah.
And like, I pastor a pretty traditional church. I want to notice that, James, you're super engaged. Do you have questions or thoughts? I don't want to like leave you there hanging.
No, this is just such a great conversation to be present for. And I think the words just moving from an institution towards a movement, I think, that is so powerful. And I think I'm part of First Congregational United Church of Christ in Moorhead, Minnesota, and just across the river from Fargo, North Dakota, where I live. And one of the things that I've been kind of dreaming about or thinking about, and that we've been doing, has been called Unchurch. And it's been talking about, okay, what parts of you didn't feel welcome in church growing up? and what parts of the church felt uncomfortable. And it's almost like a place for conversation. And we haven't leaned too far into the word deconstruction, but I'm realizing that's my journey right now. And the reason, if it wasn't for the congregation that I'm currently a part of, I don't think I would identify as a Christian because of just this overwhelming view of Christianity. And I'm also I'm a speech therapist by training, but I'm also a singer-songwriter, and I've been leaning into the title intuitive songwriter. And realizing that my voice matters. And I think there are just there's a lot of places where we have been sold this idea of unworthiness that has just penetrated so many of us, to the point where we just disown parts of ourselves, or it just feels like more and more we just have to rediscover the brilliance of the early church and the teachings of Jesus, and lean away from the institution that was created by the state that crucified him.
Yeah.
Amen to that. See, you could say that on
Yeah,
TikTok.
that's a TikTok,
right?
Literally.
And Leslie, what you said earlier was so poignant about, I don't know if I have the energy and creativity to lead in this way, right? Like, so much of my audience on TikTok at times is other clergy. There are so many of us who are feeling that, and to hear, oh God, I'm not alone. Like, what a relief.
And I think it's also important to note that you don't have to be a content creator.
Yes.
There are so many people who I know who, it's so funny because I follow people on TikTok so that we can send each other messages. And there are some of my friends who have never created a video. And they're like, why do you follow me? I'm never going to create anything. But I'm like, so you can send me message, so we can message.
Right.
And so sometimes people just watch. And it's
I watch a lot. I watch all kinds of things on TikTok. Now, I do have a question. If I wanted to send, like, Sarah, the one that you did, that you showed us earlier on Unix.
Yeah.
If I wanted, can you repost things in TikTok?
You can.
All right,
There's a repost button. There's a little like arrow looking thing.
Oh, that's what that means. Okay.
Yeah, and you can repost it, or you can also save it. All my videos you can download, which has kind of bitten me, except it hasn't. That video has been reposted on every social media platform and stitched and made fun of by conservative pundits and whatever. And I know there's somebody in that guy's conservative church who hears, oh, that is an affirming text.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's all.
Okay.
But
so there are ways to share
email me and just say, I don't know, can I get a copy of this? And I'll send you one. But all my stuff is public. The only thing I hate
using that one as an example, that if I saw something that I really liked and agreed with and thought, oh, I want other people to see this. Is there because on Facebook you can just
I
share it. And so I didn't know if there was a way to do that on TikTok. Okay.
There is. And then people who follow you or are friends with you are more likely to see it. I do almost every video I make for TikTok, I will post to Facebook. That's how most of my church members end up seeing my videos, is because I posted them to Facebook, and I make them public, which means people can share them.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and stop recording because I didn't just realize we're still being recorded.
Oh.
Is everyone okay with that?
Hi, everyone. That's fine. Yeah.
Did this all start